I've always loved sleep. I've loved sleeping outside. You know, when I've slept literally outside. You know, on top of mountains.
In the hanging mattress also.
I haven't done I haven't done that as intrepid as that. But no, usually, you know, in a bivy bag, bivouac bag. Just in a big plastic bag. But all over the place and by rivers. And, wild.
When it's all whiskey around you and just your nose and your
usually in warm country, in the south of France or Spain. I haven't slept out without a tent in this country ever. This summer I could have done. Yes, this summer it would have been good. When you have limited resources of energy, you suddenly understand how much energy driving takes because of the mental focus as well as, and it is quite physical. I'll take my cardigan off now because this is partly age and partly the conditioning. Getting overheated after a cup of coffee. So I'm optimistic that there's still somewhere to go, there's improvement, but of course all the time, as time passes, I am also getting older. Yes. Not that I'm very old, but you know, I feel post-menopause. Yes, and post-menopause, you know, it happens to all of us really, that there are other issues coming in. Well, one of them being the hot flushes that I've now had for 10 years, because I was catapulted into menopause by chemotherapy at the age of 48. And at that point the hot flushes started, partly because chemotherapy gives you hot flushes anyway. And that was horrendous, and they have got better. I was having, I don't know, 25 or 30 in a day, and then at night as well. And some were so huge that they would, I occasionally still get a huge one, but so huge that they literally stopped me in my tracks. And my brain would scramble, and I couldn't, I'd be talking nonsense, and I'd know I was, you know, and I couldn't stand, I'd go very weak and dizzy, and I'd just have to literally stop in mid-sentence. You know, I'd say to people, I'm sorry, I'll be back with you in a minute. That was horrible, and I very rarely get those huge ones now, fortunately. Occasionally, it is getting better, and further away from all the drugs as well. Because the body has to get rid of them. Some of it was the 5 years of drugs, which actually keep you at the point of menopause effectively, and so you can't, because they're suppressing your body's estrogen production to keep it as low as possible, and so you can't I shouldn't do that. I keep perk, so you can't settle, you can't, your body can't adjust. So it was only 5 years after my cancer and my cancer treatment, when I stopped the drugs, then my body started to go through its natural menopause. That's how it was explained to me, you know, and why it was all going on so long, really. Mum was saying yesterday how, she just loved sitting chatting, and she said when I got her home, she said, it's brought back so many memories of Austria. Just thinking about their time in Austria when she and Dad were young. It was lovely.
I like it to have she as a model. It was great. She was so full of energy.
That's it, exactly. I mean, everything I've just been talking about, it is immensely frustrating not to be able to do the things I used to do. And I went through a horrible time, kind of having to adjust my self-perception because I had this different body that wouldn't, and it was sudden. It's not like a gradual aging process. I suddenly went from one set of capabilities to just not having them. And a lot of people through cancer who survive cancer say exactly the same, or any serious illness, that or the becoming disabled after being very fit, through an accident. The adjustment is huge because you have to go through a grieving process for the person you were, and fundamentally you're still the same person. Your essence is the same, but because we define ourselves by all the different things we do, it's if you lose all of them in one go, it's a huge piece of work to accept, and until you accept, you can't build anything new. Well, that was my experience, and acceptance is still my daily struggle, because there are still things I would love to do, but I know it's just pointless, and I'll only make myself more frustrated and angry. But out of accepting and saying, yes, this is the way it is, you cannot. What I've found is that it's not easy, but I've found that I am much more focused on what can I do.
Yeah. And you
do
it. And you do it.
Yes.
And maybe maybe before that you knew you could do all that, but you didn't take all the possibilities all the time.
Yeah, I found new possibilities, I suppose. I mean, one of the key ones is that I was never a photographer before.
Yeah.
And it was that's been an amazing therapy for me, taking up photography. And it just kind of, as these things do, it just came along really.
Yeah.
That I think I was telling you, wasn't I, that I was really in the doldrums. I was very, very low energy, very low mood, very depressed. Absolutely, I mean, just feeling, I don't know, like a zombie, not myself, not part of the world. I would go out, walk around, and I would feel completely disconnected from everybody and from the world, and because every single step forward was a struggle, and all I wanted to do was be lying down with the probably the covers over my head, and for nobody to speak to me, for nobody to make any demands on me, for me not to have to, for everything to stop. That was the place I got to, and I think I needed to. I needed to stop. Obviously, I needed to stop, but
out of this, the new creativity.
Is this the new? Yes, a new direction or a new outlet, because it was simply a lovely sunny day in February 2012. And a friend had taken me to see an exhibition over in Sheffield by another friend, and it was in an education centre in some lovely woodlands on the Derbyshire side of Sheffield, Ecclesall Woods, and there were some sculptures in the woods. Outside. That wasn't the exhibition; that was all inside, but. Outside there were some sculptures, and I used to live near there, but these were fairly new. I hadn't seen them before, and I just started taking a few photographs of them because they were I was intrigued by them because they were beautifully created, inspired by the woods, by the trees. They were made out of wood, and they blended in and linked with the tall trees and that kind of. That sense of cathedral, that you get in woods, or the sense of great organ pipes, that kind of thing. They're reaching for the sky, and it was a beautiful blue sky. So I just took some photos, posted one on Facebook, got an awful lot of comments saying, "What a fabulous photo that is!" And the fact that I got the comments, and also I was there looking at the photograph, and it was. Obviously, it was a record of a day that I'd actually enjoyed, and I wasn't enjoying very much. And I'd felt a little bit more like me again because I was in the woods and I was outside in nature and I was looking at art and all of those things. I think the photograph gave me back all of that. It encapsulated those memories and those feelings. But the main thing was the comments.
They made it very going.
Yeah, and I thought this is what I need to do because I felt so good that my photograph was giving somebody else pleasure.
You can have a seat if you want.
That's okay, I'm all right at the moment, thanks. Do you want to
Hello, do come in.
That's one thing I've always wanted to do, but I can never do anything like that.
Next week I give a workshop.
All right.
You can join us.
I won't be in the area next week.
In here, Wilfried's doing two days of portrait workshops. And a major thing with this project, Face Europe project, is the filming of the subject and collecting stories.
Get to know.
If you're talking and moving, like, don't say, please be quiet, I have to look.
And it's to get to know
people just in a normal way, not to be interrupted by anybody, by the telephone or something.
Films on YouTube because it's about. I love your kind of strapline. Show your face, tell your story, and it's just. They're going all around Europe. They've started here in the UK, and they're going to visit every country in Europe. It was the fact that other people were taking that enjoyment from the way I'd taken the photo. And it just made me feel, this is what I need, because the response was so important. So I just decided to give myself a prescription for better health, and I called it Take 1 a Day and 2 on Sundays. Well, it took a while to give it the name, actually. And the 2 on Sundays was because I was enjoying myself so much that I thought I'd treat myself to posting 2 photos on Sunday. But the plan basically was to get me out of the house into nature, into the world, and take at least one interesting photo every day and post it. Almost 60 years of being a member of the Thegreenmangallery, and very much at the start of its development, and seeing it build and supporting that development, facilitating that development for nearly 6 years now. I've built up another great chunk of experience to go alongside or on top of the years of experience in theatre and education. So, and they're all connected.
It's just another topic, but it's still the same what you're doing.
It is because, looking at Wilfried, that all art is about communication, isn't it? So, that's certainly where I come from. Why do we do it? Why do we so desperately need to get it out of our heads onto paper or into dance or why do we need to why do you have this compulsion to draw and paint people? It's
a need.
It is a need,
It's an urge. It comes from the inner need.
And this, going back to what I was saying about how I started with photography, because I've spent my working life in creative professions and very much involved in the creative process on a daily basis. When I wasn't creating anything, when I wasn't making anything,
you got desperate.
I did get. It was awful because again I didn't feel like me. And initially I went back to knitting because I used to do a lot of knitting when I was younger, and I hadn't really had the time, to be honest. But I loved the process in knitting that I love is it's one of those activities. If you're knitting something easy that you don't have to think about and count every stitch and so on, you get into a rhythm and it frees your mind. It's like going for a walk.
Yeah.
Your mind can start to wander around. The thoughts come, the ideas come, and you can do the knitting and you can be thinking about something else. I had some bad experiences at school. There was something wrong with one of the machines, clearly. I know that now. And having very early days at my senior school, and I threaded the machine up as instructed, checked the tension, everything. Started to sew my seam, and the needle immediately broke because the tension, there was something wrong with the tension setting, and it was literally just snapped. But I got blamed for this. She was very, very sharp with me, and I felt terrible because I wasn't like I am now. I was quite timid, aged 11. Yes. And I thought, well, it must be me. So she then threaded the machine for me. I started again and it broke again. But I still got the blame. And after that, eventually she put me on a different machine and it was okay. But I felt scared of her because of that. And I knew it was unfair because I knew it wasn't anything I'd done wrong.
Children know when something is...
I knew it was unfair, and so I was very wary of this teacher, and she just didn't seem to take to me either. It was as if I don't know. This incident, seemed to colour everything.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean it when I say in my third age, which is upon me really now. I'm getting there. I just still don't have the time. I would love to actually get over my fear of electric sewing machines and just do more stitching because I do enjoy hand stitching. It's not something I'm doing a lot of. But while I was on chemotherapy. It really did. It hit me so hard, and I had hardly any energy through the whole 6 months. I mean, it got worse and worse. Obviously, it built up. But I desperately needed to do something creative, and I needed colour. I had this very strong need for colour somehow. And I couldn't go out much. I was inside. I was at home most of the time, and I would get up very late, and then by 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I would need to sleep again, and I'd have about 2 hours when I actually could sit upright and do something. But it was so exhausting. It's indescribable, really, because you're being poisoned, steadily poisoned for 6 months, and it's horrible. And your brain goes completely foggy as well. But because when you're in that limbo situation where you literally have had to stop your life before cancer treatment, I'm not working, I'm not able to go anywhere really, I'm not able to do anything, I am completely useless. There is no purpose to me at all. And so to have a little job, a little task that gave me purpose every single day. But I told myself I'm not going to be hard on myself. I can't do it one day. I just can't do it. That's fine. It will wait. It will take as long as it takes. And it got me through. And the colour got me through somehow. It was it was very necessary.
You should give this experience to other people that are in that stage.
Yes, well I have to some extent because when a little bit later, further down the line, I think I told you you know, I came out of the major treatment and I started taking on work again, partly because, and it was too soon, but partly I did it because I'd had to stop. I hadn't been me for a year almost, and I was desperate to get back to normal. Yeah, normal. Even though I knew, and people said, you know, you have to find a new normal because nothing will ever be normal again, or you won't. It will change things. Certain things you will get back, but others you may not. And I mean, I learned so much more about that subsequently, but I didn't really have much advice at that point, and I needed the money because I was self-employed. There were a couple of organisations which had held projects for me because they weren't time sensitive. So they said, we're just going to wait until you're well enough to do them. And so I felt, well, I really wanted to do the projects, and obviously I felt I couldn't let them down and say no, sorry. So although I was taking on less work, or it felt like less, what I realised, but a bit too late, was that when I was working, maybe I was only doing a morning, or I was only doing an afternoon, whereas in the past I would have done a full day. Or I was working on a Monday and a Wednesday and a Friday, but not on a Tuesday and a Thursday. You know, I was giving myself days in between, which was great, and I thought that was the right thing to do. But the problem was, when I was working, I only had one way of working, and that was kind of 200% energy,
exhausting,
giving out all the time, having loads of fun with people, all sorts of people, but completely exhausting. And I just didn't have the resources, I didn't have the strength to do it. And I now know that I should have taken a whole year to recover from the treatment. That's what I needed. But I couldn't afford to. I needed. I felt I couldn't afford
But then you had another long time.
But then I had another crisis, basically, a huge one, because I worked myself to a point of exhaustion at the end of 2010. But I got to the point, and I think this is common, that I wasn't really recognising what was happening, and I was trying to hold everything together. I felt I'm losing my touch, I can't do this, I'm not as good at this anymore as I was, and that causes so much anxiety, and so you pedal harder, you know, to try and maintain this on the surface, but underneath you're falling apart, and you feel you're running, but you're not getting anywhere. And everything is hard, everything is a struggle, everything is very stressful, and you're just not productive. You're not,
and your aims are getting higher and higher.
And
you never reach them. Whenever you're close, you.
That's right.
Exactly.
Your expectations are too great.
Yes.
And being like, as many of us are in our art forms, you know, I am a perfectionist, and I always want excellence. I want the highest standard I can possibly reach, and you know, you never stop evaluating, and you get to the end of one project, and the reason you do another one is because you've learned so much through that one, and you think, there's always somewhere new to go, there's somewhere more. And we're just like that, aren't we? You know, creative people, we are our own worst enemies in that way.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, if we were satisfied, we would stop. We'd stop. With actors always say, if you know, sometimes people will write reviews and they'll say the definitive performance of, you know, but actors, if an actor thinks like that, if you think, I've done the best, that's the best I'm ever going to do, you can't carry on because the fear sets in. If that's the best, I've got no.
There's no reason. You're in the heaven.
I've reached the pinnacle. It can only go downhill from now, and so I'm scared that it will go downhill. Bash the microphone. We're always doing this. We're always trying new things, and that's what keeps it alive, and keeps us alive, and keeps the purpose behind it. And we're all so driven in that way. And I know I'm a very driven person in that sense. And I never stop having ideas, you know, I have 365 ideas every day, easily. and I have to stop myself saying, oh right, I'm going to do that then. I have to stop myself. But yeah, I found myself, I was still working like that. And my expectation of myself and the reality of what I could actually manage, they were getting further and further apart. And anyway, I finally collapsed. I did go to my doctor to talk about the fact that I wasn't sleeping. I'd been sleep deprived from the beginning of chemotherapy, very badly sleep deprived. And a lot of it was waking up with night sweats, and then as soon as the hot flush creates a sense of panic anyway, even if there's nothing to panic about. But then the brain clicks in, you wake up, and it's whoa, you know, you're wide awake. You're wide awake, and the brain is spiraling off into the most terrible scenarios, and the anxiety feeds itself terribly. It's a dreadful thing, and self-perpetuating. And of course, in the middle of the night, it's just awful.
Yeah.
And those big empty spaces of the night, and you feel so alone, even if there's somebody with you, because you don't want to wake them up and bother them with all of this. And yeah, so that was happening, really. And of course, cancer inevitably causes anxiety that you cannot control. It's always there. And so that was happening so much. And then I was getting up and trying to do a day of exciting theatre with young people, or I had writing projects going on, I was directing, you know, and all of those things you've got to give out all the time. I couldn't do it. So I finally went to the doctor, and she gave me something which was aimed at helping the anxiety, because she said it is slightly sedative, this drug, but it's not a sleeping tablet. But what it should do is calm the anxiety enough at night for you to get to sleep. And then if you do wake up in the night, you hopefully will find that your thoughts are, your brain is calm enough for you not to go off into these terrible anxious spirals. And that it did work, and I started getting a full night's sleep for the first time in 3.5 years. I can't remember now how long it took me to go back to living at the house on my own, because I did it gradually. I would go back during the day, but I would go to my brother's to sleep. I couldn't be there on my own for the entire. I had a really, really horrible moment, which did make me and everybody around me realise that I'd got to stop. I still hadn't stopped completely, and I needed to. I was still trying to struggle on with one piece of work, one project, and it was a fairly boring subject. It was a day devoted to evaluating arts projects and looking at different methods of evaluation. And the first person to speak at this day conference was, it was quite a dry and boring presentation. Everybody said to me later, oh, it was really boring. And I knew I was struggling to engage with what he was saying. But I suddenly realised that for the whole time he'd been speaking, he had a PowerPoint, presentation, and all of the screens, all of the slides had a certain symbol on them, because he was showing statistics. And the symbol was... And I realised that I'd been staring at these screens for the whole time he'd been speaking, probably about 10 minutes, trying to work out what on earth that symbol meant. And knowing that I should know what it meant, because there was a certain familiarity about the percentage sign, but I just did not know what it meant. And everything was meaningless. And I started, and a panic attack started. Well, I'd already started having support at a local hospice, which is a daycare hospice called Blind House, and it's the most wonderful place ever, where they offer support and counselling, and they have a service called the Living Well service, which is living well with a life-threatening disease, and there are support groups and counselling, and some people like me with a good prognosis of survival post-cancer, and others have got a diagnosis of terminal cancer, but they have a good life, and until the cancer finally ends it for them. And people with different types of prognosis. Some people may only have months, some may have years, and it's about living well in the moment that you have. And it's wonderful. It's wonderful. And I'd already started having counselling, which I very much needed. And I had a small technique for calming these moments of panic, which is a simple technique which you can do anywhere, where you simply slowly bring your fingertips together and press, and then you release. And you just keep doing that, and a little focus on that, and also you bring breathing, into it. So you have very rhythmic breathing, and that does help calm me down. And I started to do this under the table where I was sitting, but it wasn't working. And suddenly, a friend and colleague who was sitting like you are now, she looked over, she leaned over and she said, "Caroline, you look terrible. Are you all right?" And it was her saying that, and it was that moment of somebody showing that care. And I looked at her and I just said, "No," and I felt myself go. I knew I was going to just burst into tears. So she put a hand on mine and she said, "Come out with me, I'll get you a cup of tea." So we went outside, and I'm sorry. It's that. Yeah, I know. And we went out of the room, and I just collapsed. Yeah, I wept and I sobbed and I couldn't speak for a while. And by the time she brought me a cup of tea, and by the time eventually I calmed enough to speak, and I told her what had triggered this. And in the meantime, the person who was the manager of the whole project, she'd realised something was wrong, because this was not like me at all, to suddenly disappear and we hadn't come back. And they all knew everything. That she knew that everything that had been happening to me, and she knew that things were very difficult. So she came out, and she just sat there, and the great thing was, she was completely sympathetic, but she took the whole responsibility off me straight away. And she said, "Caroline, you must not worry. You must not worry about any of this. The projects that you're responsible for, I'm going to find somebody else to take them on. You don't have to even think about a handover. You've got everything in place, all your record keeping. We will just sort it. You need to stop, you need to go home, you need to rest, you need to do nothing. And we won't forget you, and we will keep in touch. And but you, I'm going to cry in a minute as well, because just remembering how she dealt with it superbly. She was matter of fact, she was practical, and she gave me the solution, and she effectively allowed me to take the burden of responsibility that I felt towards the project that I was working on.
But it was also the lack of money that you had right away, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, it was a problem, but it was
the small problem was.
And I did have, but anyway, the permission to stop completely was good, and it was exactly what I needed. And so I think I couldn't even start my recovery until then, and the time between breaking down initially and going into shock and actually stopping everything. February, March, April, May. Yeah, those 4 months, I was in a kind of limbo. I don't know where I was. I wasn't here. Not really. I wasn't functioning, and the exact details, some of them I can't remember. Fortunately, probably. Some of it I can, but I remember it more as a feeling, a sensation than details, chronology. And the 2011 was a terrible year, and
But you started here in this time?
No, I started here in February 2013. I started my photography project in early 2012.
Okay.
The Thegreenmangallery first started in different premises. And initially, I wasn't part of it at the very beginning. It was a group of local artists, and they started it as a pop-up gallery with a view to it lasting 6 months. And we're here nearly 6 years later, which is amazing. But their initial idea was 6 months. But no, I wasn't part of it at the very start. It's just that it's because I'd started the photography that when the gallery did open, well, initially I didn't even think of being a member, because I didn't think of myself as somebody who exhibited in a gallery, even though I was and I had actually done a small exhibition in my house by then, but just in my hallway in my house. So I wasn't thinking of myself as an exhibiting artist by any means. My photography I call a mindful eye photography, because I started the photography before I started mindfulness, but the two started to come together while I was at Blind House, because, I used to take a lot of photographs in their garden. There's a really lovely garden there, beautifully planted so that there's interest through the seasons. There's some gorgeous grasses and fabulous seed heads, after the flowers, and there's some running water. It's really not my garden. No, the garden at Blind House Hospice. And so when I was there, I'd go every Tuesday for the whole day. There was a drop-in art session in the morning, and I did a lot of messy play. I just call it messy play. Really, the artist who runs it has become a friend, and she's very, very good. She presents you with different materials and ideas, and it's very gentle, and there's no, today we're doing this and you have to do, and it didn't matter if you didn't finish, it was just about doing and enjoying. And the very first thing, she took one look at me, and she gave me a piece of silk, stretched piece of silk, and the inks to do silk painting, and she said, I think you might enjoy this, and she showed me the basic steps. It was perfect. It was the perfect thing to do. Partly, it was colour. It was about colour, and the medium is. I'd love to do some more silk painting. The silk tells you. It creates the pattern. It creates. You draw outlines in a product called gutter. Which stops it creates a border so the ink doesn't spread everywhere. Although you don't have to do that, you can just use the inks on the silk and see what happens. But the material has a life of its own because, of course, as the ink is absorbed, it changes, it moves, it bleeds into other colours, and you can do lovely things. You put salt on when it's wet and all of that kind of thing.
Did you do it with wax?
I didn't use wax. I didn't get as far as that, but no, I just used the gutter stuff. Silver was the one I liked to draw
lines,
borders, images, whatever you want to do really, and then paint with ink. And it was so lovely because watching the fabric absorb and you know, as the capillary action starts, and you know, it's fascinating. And the colours are very vibrant with silk painting. It can be. So I enjoyed that very much. The hardest thing for me with all the anxiety was that I was brooding all the time on the past and grieving. And then you have to go through that grieving process, but the loss of my relationship, what went wrong, what could I have done differently, what can I do about it now, how could I get it back, you know, all of the things that you go through. All of that turmoil going on. And then what's going to become of me? Because I'm not working, I can't, where am I going to get the money from? I'm all on my own, what's going to happen? So you're grieving for the past and brooding over it, and you're worrying about the future, and what you're not doing is living in the present and living in the moment. And that, it's become a cliche, living in the moment, but it is absolutely what we need to do. It doesn't mean you forget the past completely, and it doesn't mean you don't pay attention to planning for the future, but it means that you don't obsess and you don't get so lost in either the future or the past that you don't live in the moment, now, today. And I realised that the reason I found photography so therapeutic was because as soon as I was looking at, say, a flower, because initially my subjects were all the plants in my garden and at my house, because it was spring when I started, so it was perfect, so everything was springing up and exploding.
Exactly.
It does.
And sometimes you don't even have any time to watch it.
No, exactly.
In the morning, it's all, the leaves are not out.
Exactly.
It's all green.
I missed it again. How did that happen? I missed it again. It happens while you're not looking. And I mean, February here, of course, it's snowdrops coming. And in Buxton, well, certainly in my garden, elsewhere they are in flower in February, but mine in my garden don't flower until March. But they're starting to come up before Christmas. They poke their heads up, but the spheres of the leaves are there, but they bide their time because we can get really, really bad snow. We're high up, for England, we're very high, and we can get bad snow and very hard frosts well into March. We did last year, so they do bide their time, and it means that when it comes spring, I find spring in Buxton so exciting because the crocuses and the primroses and the snowdrops all come together, and then the daffodils come, and often you've got all of them, and in other places
it's a long period.
It's snowdrops first, and the crocuses, and the snowdrops are going, and then but here it's just this total wham! Oh gosh, today it's spring. Look at them all. Where did they come from? And it is wonderful. Never more present than when I'm looking through my camera, because I don't plan my photography. I just go out, and this was from the very beginning. I started to take photographs of what caught my eye. If it catches my eye, it's worth taking a second look, and often it's a play of light that catches your eye, or it might be a shape or a texture that's revealed by the angle of the light. It's all about the light. And I think my theatre background has given me a very good understanding of light and light angles and that kind of thing, and colour in light, etc. But But I only photograph in natural light, really. I don't do studio photography. It's not a skill.
There is so much to do outside.
And I much prefer to use, because I understand natural light and I can use it. But so it's all about noticing. And mindfulness is all about noticing the breath, noticing what's happening in your body. If you stop breathing, or if you breathe in a very shallow way rather than breathing right through you, right into from your abdomen. I had a head start because I've spent my life singing and I know all about abdominal breathing.
Okay.
But I've never been a shallow breather. That wasn't my problem. My problem was here. Connection. What you were saying, there's always something to do, always a new idea, always, life is exciting. And also having so much to do and rushing from one thing to another and spinning plates and too many projects on the go all the time. And fizzing, everything fizzing. So slowing that, calming it and reaching that stillness that you need to have kind of from your core. And I needed it physically as a way of getting better. I needed it for my physical health and my mental health. I mean, it's so completely linked, but I really needed it.
But I think everybody needs it.
We do, because we live so much in our heads. And I always used to, when I started directing theatre, something I became very aware of was how some people are, the word we use is grounded, completely grounded, and others are simply not at all, in any way. And you can sometimes watch somebody rehearse, and it seems to come out when you're watching an actor work, simply because of what they're focusing on, and they are obviously embodying somebody who's not themselves.
Yes.
But as an actor, you have to stay grounded in yourself. Yourself is always, it's got to be there.
Because otherwise you cannot act.
No, because the characterization, the embodiment, of another character, it's only coming from facets of you. You can't actually be somebody else, so you can only be you. And so everything you're building on facets of yourself and your understanding of other people. It's always a part of yourself that you're building on. And I became aware that it's really obvious physically when someone's head is not connected with their feet. And people whose heads are full of ideas often can find it's so much harder to have the feet firmly planted in a way that obviously your feet are touching the ground, but metaphorically speaking, you're not actually connecting your head and your feet. And I've always talked about myself. My understanding of myself is that because I'm very practical, I'm very logical, I'm very analytical. I've always enjoyed literally connecting with the earth, tramping the hills, that kind of thing. Got that from my dad. But my head's in the clouds because I'm full of ideas. And the danger comes when I don't connect the two. And the breakdown was almost as if, because the physical body was so weak and so affected by the poison of chemo, by the stress. They told me at Blythe House, the nurses there, they said you've what you have had in physical terms is a complete adrenal breakdown. Your adrenal glands are simply not able to function. You cannot produce the hormones that you need to function because they have been under so much stress and they have stopped. And so that's a physiological thing. But because my head would not connect with that, it was almost denying it and saying, no, I can't be like this. I must still be able to do this and that. And I was And that's why I felt so connected.
Do you hold your camera in the hand, or do you have a...
Well, that's the other thing. You see, I prefer handheld because I'm more spontaneous then. You know, I can move, and I can move around a subject because I will photograph the same flower from all sorts of different angles, because what I'm trying to do is discover what it was that made me notice it. Why? What was special, you know, and then what's the essence of this flower or this plant? It's how it grows, why it grows here, what it grows in company with, you know, where it is, how it uses the light, all of those things, or how the raindrops are sitting on its leaves. And so it's every single flower or plant or subject I choose, there's a little journey of discovery, and I can spend an hour with one. You know, sometimes it is that fascinating because the more you look, the more you see, and you start.
In my book, I had some questions I would like to ask.
Okay. Do you still want to ask them? I've just sat and talked, haven't I?
Yes, that was great.
That was great.
I asked, one of my questions is, what is your favorite dish? And I think you said you like soups. Any variety, if it's good.
I love homemade soup because, I mean, I love vegetables,
Yes.
basically. Although I have this horrible allergy to broccoli. And it's so sad because I do actually like broccoli, and I have eaten quite a lot of it in the past. But I discovered about probably 20 years ago now, it was starting to give me a lot of problems, and it actually got to the point where I would be sick. I would start with a really sharp, severe pain in my stomach, and then I would be sick. So it's obviously the body saying, no, don't eat broccoli. And it's a shame because, another very favourite. I mean, apart from that, vegetables and fruit as well, which I do eat a lot of. And I love soups, I love vegetable stews, I love fruit, warm, you know, compote. I usually have warm fruit in the morning. And interestingly, when I was sort of at my worst, and when I was going to Black House, I had some acupuncture, and the acupuncturist was very knowledgeable, you know, had a lot of training in traditional Chinese medical techniques and concepts. And he said, I think I said to him, because we were talking about diet, and I said to him, well, I'm finding at the moment that all I want to eat is red and orange food. And he said, that's absolutely fine, because you are in the depleted state you are in, you need to nurture yourself through food. And obviously in Chinese medicine, food is considered a medicine. And if I'm coming at your situation from a Chinese medical angle, I would be recommending warm, not hot, warm vegetable soups and stews with plenty of red and orange. And you do still need to have the green, but throw some spinach in. And I said, that's what I do anyway. But he said, yes, it is necessary, because what's in the tomatoes and the peppers and so on, the carrots, you need a lot of it. Yeah, not meat, no.
Red beets.
Red beet. Oh, beetroot. Yes, beetroot. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, because I don't eat meat. I eat fish, but I don't eat meat.
Yeah, but in Lithuania, we learned about cold beetroot.
Oh yes.
Do you know this?
Borscht.
Yeah,
I've had it cold, hot and cold.
Yes.
But warm is essential for the nurture of fish.
Sure. Cold is just because it's hot outside.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And there's the Spanish gazpacho as well, which is made with a lot of cucumber and tomato. That's called summer soup. But they are absolutely horrible things, cold soups, when the weather's like this.
Yes.
It's just not what you want. Don't put everything cold in. But yes, it's beautiful. Oh, beetroot
Yeah.
in soup, it's just wonderful. And the borscht type
Yes.
soups they're velvety, aren't
Yeah.
they? You put sour cream
Yes.
in.
Yeah.
Really good. So yes, I do love soup, but I'm very, very fond, probably too fond of cheese as well. I adore cheese. But it's a good source of calcium. So yeah, and I do like fish.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
But not fish and chips.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Fish and chips is great. Yeah. A couple of weeks ago, I went to one of the pubs down on the high street, the Old Sun Inn, which is one of the old coaching inns. They do great food, and I went there, and we had. They do sharing platters, which is quite a kind of fashionable thing at the moment. You know, where you're buying, you've got one plate of food, and you're just sharing it between two people.
Yeah.
And we decided to have the fish sharing platter, and it was. I've been eating a lot of completely vegetarian meals for about 2 weeks. It just happened that that's what I did, and it's what I felt like. And I realised I really needed some fish. My body was saying fish. And it was fabulous. It was so good because it was a mixture of cold and hot. There was a smoked mackerel pate, which is gorgeous. My mouth's watering thinking about it. Smoked salmon, white bait, fried in the sort of very thin frittata type. Frittata? No, not frittata. I'm thinking of the Italian fritto misto, the very light batter.
Okay.
Some scampi as well. There were anchovies. I'm not wild about anchovies just because they can be very, very salty. And it can be a little bit too much. But it was just this gorgeous spread, and there were a few bits of salad, and we did have a little bowl of chips to share as well. Yeah, but very good. There must have been some prawns in there somewhere as well. Yeah, I think so. Very good. Recommended.
Pub means just a place where you get some drinks.
Pub is short, a public house. So it's kind of, we use the term pub, but it's, in a way it's lost its original meaning. It's because the first pubs were just people's houses, their homes, but there would be, they weren't purpose-built to serve beer to people. It was just that people would have a public house. So their house, their home, and they maybe would open a room so that other people could come in, and they would, they'd have barrels of beer, and you would be able to buy beer there. So they were called public houses, and that's what it grew out of. Yeah, so we just call them pubs. But it's
basically strict. They are mainly sort of people ale, and they're for adults.
Yes. Yeah. Although now, it's changed a lot in recent years because so many more pubs serve food now, and children are allowed in if they're eating. If they're eating a meal, they can come in. They can't drink. You can't buy alcohol until you're 18. But children are allowed in. Although there are some pubs, the Swan, for example, is a pub that is for drinking, really. Drinking and meeting up, and being and socialising. It's not a food pub. Hi, Ali. Hello. Hi. This is Ali, who's one of our volunteers.
Ali, of course,
of course, it's Ali who emailed you.
Visit Buxton.
Okay. So Ali, we have Ali to thank for the fact that you found us. You pointed them in that direction.
That's right.
Yeah.
So now I'm not
well done.
I forgot you were here today. I was home. Nip in and see you, and then I just sit in my
Well, it was the first response we got.
Really?
Yeah, it was the first email we sent out. And it was really darling of you that you responded in the way that you did, and it was a great email.
Thank you.
After this email, we have sent several other emails, and we were only put down or not even answer.
Really?
So far, Buxton seems to be coming out very high in the ranking of
Yes.
being friendly and welcoming.
Yes,
Because
I was like, oh my god, this is amazing.
well, that's what when they started to tell me about the project, I said, wow, we have to, yes,
It's like,
we have to
it must be easy to have someone coordinate when you're here rather than just rocking up and not knowing where to go.
That's right, but you've had, as you say, you've had people not replying to you,
Yes.
not interested,
Yes.
and you've been to,
We came here and it was just
but you've been to
Wow.
places where they've just said, well, no, we're not
Yes.
not interested in this coming to our gallery. Well, Kate wants to come during the week, doesn't she?
And on Wednesday, yeah.
On Wednesday.
How long are you here for? Are you here for the week?
The next years.
Going off to one place every so often. Then that's what you do in the
The population of
Yeah.
Buxton is 26,000, I think. So they needed that.
Because I thought you'd be hopping around about every other day. But
It's more
it's like,
flexible
yeah,
now,
so,
isn't it?
yeah, just go where you can.
You've got certain planned places, haven't you? A couple
Two
of
more.
Yeah.
Two more there.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, I
Anyway, are
think
we?
we're finished.
Yeah. I'm allowed to look then.
Yeah.
In fear and trepidation. Sunny seeing you so. Oh, I say. Yeah. Yeah. I can definitely see that. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Yeah. I think you've got my serious side, even though I've been not serious. But it's all in there. Yeah, and the interesting thing is I can see my mum.
Yeah. So
Because I am, if you saw my dad and you saw my brother, you would understand that where this face comes from.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're both very alike, my brother and I. We're very alike,
Yes.
my brother and I. And to the extent that people have often thought we were twins.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And we talk in a similar way, we have similar mannerisms, and we are facially just like my dad, completely like my dad. But but people now, when they see me with my mum, they say, "Oh yes, I can see your mum in you."
Yeah.
And I don't see it because I see my dad's face.
Yeah.
When I look in the mirror, I see my dad's face and my granddad's face. I guess it's a family face. Yeah. But I can absolutely see my dad at my age. That's amazing. Yeah, but no, that is Dad. Yeah, definitely. Genius. I love my hair. I love the way you've done my hair. And but I don't know, at the moment I'm wearing it up more and more because I find it less irritating. So I thought, no, that's me at the moment.
Yeah.
I've turned into my father. I can see my dad at my age, just change the hair slightly, and that is my dad when he was in his late 50s. But it's me as well, I know it's me. It's can I show you my mum as well? You met my mum. You probably haven't met my mum.
Oh, wow. And, wow, no, I haven't seen your mum, but I can see the likeness.
Exactly. But you
Yeah.
see, I'm identical to my dad and my brother, who is also identical to my dad. But mum is in me very much. And yes.
Oh,
yes. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.